Hello and welcome back to the Indian Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Raj Balkaran, founder of the Indian Wisdom School. Today we talk about times of tumult. I've received a great many messages regarding the times unfolding before us. And so I wish to provide some support, perhaps insight, perhaps some ancient wisdom from ancient India and other places, because wisdom is eternal and transcultural. Um, to provide some wisdom on meeting tumultuous times. I think in times of tumult or in times of difficulty, while the impulse is um, to be pulled into circumstance, be pulled into emotionality, be pulled away from centering, from grounding, from spirituality, from health and wellness strategies. Indeed, it is at these times where it is all the more necessary, helpful, um, you know, crucial to remain grounded, remain calm. One of my favorite metaphors for the human complex is akin to sort of you know, um, a movie that we're watching or filming even. And camera one is our day in and day out mundane consciousness, what the ancients call the manas, the mind, much more rich than the mind is, than how the mind is construed in sort of Western psychological parlance, or even sort of in a day in and day out meaning, but mind as the receptacle of all of the patterns, the habits, the conditioning, mind as the locus of the vrittis, the fluctuations of thought, but also of feeling, of emotionality. They're all part of the mind. Now, mind is a bit of a nebulous word in English, but the ancient Indic thinkers separated mind, manas, from buddhi, intellect, right? The aspect of self which discerns where one can find critical thinking, but above and beyond the capacity to discern where one connects with one's values, where one is able to see clearly. And camera one is the day in and day out mini me view. And camera two is the panoramic view, the bird's eye view, uh, whereby one can perceive a situation from a higher perspective, partially, mostly, or entirely divorced from one's mundane purview. Now, this takes practice. But of course, think about your life. Think about where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Think about your seeing power. Think about the ways in which your seeing power has been improved through circumstance. Think of how clearly you're seeing your 15-year-old self now and the wonderful and so silly things you're up to. That seeing power, you're seeing that person not from the camera one, that 15-year-old camera one, you're seeing from camera two, so to speak, from a more panoramic view, right? And so when we are caught up in identification and the machinations of materiality, then we are pushed and pulled. We are reactive. Now, wisdom traditions from ancient India, particularly post epics, post Upanishadic thought, do not advocate being a couch potato or a cave dweller or a bit of both. They advocate very much being active in the world, but rather than reactive, being responsive. The difference between a reaction and a response is that the reaction is instinctive, perhaps compulsive, and entirely a fluctuation of the vrittis, right? Of the aspects of self which are beyond your control. Now, spiritual evolution has to do with self awareness, and where there's awareness, there's control. Self mastery is a natural evolute of self awareness. And with that awareness comes the ability to control, to adopt a response. A reaction is akin to a chemical reaction. It's instinctive, sometimes immediate, perhaps inevitable. And a response is that which benefits from a pause. The pattern is interrupted. Wow. What did they say? I'm going to smack that beep, beep, beep upside the head. Okay, perhaps one has that thought. And perhaps if one is being reactive, one will execute that thought or that impulse without actual thought, or that impulse of the manas without the buddhi, the intellect intervening. Now, if one has a moment, a little time out, one can maybe allow that vasana to run its course and create an action freed from that. This is not difficult, pardon me. This is not easy insofar as one's ability to execute this. It takes extraordinary practice and time and patience. But it's not complex, right? It's difficult to execute, but it's not complex. If one wants to gain muscle mass, it may not be easy. It'll take effort, concerted effort, repetitive effort, intelligent effort, but it's not brain science. Okay, you can do it. It just takes practice. Is all. Practice. So one of the ways that we consider this camera 2 awareness is witness consciousness. Yes. And so part of us, camera 1, is temporal. It's born of time and space. It's an evolute of our physiology, which itself is, an evolute of the evolutionary process itself. Our neurophysiology, our sort of, primate aspect. And certainly we have to honor that dimension that is a product of time and space. There's no question about that. But there's far more to us than the aspect which is a product of and tied to time and space. So how do we meet tumultuous times? The same way we meet all times, by grounding ourselves not in the temporal, which will occasion action reaction ad infinitum forever, but grounding ourselves in the eternal as best as we can, to breathe deeply and widely in the space of being which is beyond becoming. Becoming is past, present, future. Becoming is the temporal. Being is the witnessing of the temporal. So how do you respond to tumultuous times? Ideally, the same way you respond to all times, by unhooking yourself from the temporal and watching and observing, watching the show, so to speak. This doesn't mean aloofness with respect to emotionality. We are called to compassion without question. We're not called to attachment. Worrying about that over which we have no control will not help anyone. You have control over yourself, over your mindset. Don't relinquish that control. Keep grounded, keep calm, keep positive. Find strategies and associations to help you keep grounded, keep calm, keep positive. Because in times of great darkness, should we all be sucked in to the black hole? Or should we resist the event horizon, kindle our lights, network ourselves with other light bringers, and brighten our spaces? We are not called to be sucked into the darkness. We're called to cultivate the light and be there for those who need the light. And if we are really struggling, to seek out those who have the light, whatever that looks like. Darkness makes more noise at times, but there's a great deal of light in the world. And we are called to make sure there's still a world here standing once this eclipse passes. All eclipses pass. Part of the wisdom of staying in the space of the witness is understanding the rise and fall of Prakriti, the ebb and flow. All things are impermanent. Do we think this will last forever? Of course not. Perhaps there is great purpose for events unfolding as they are. So find a daily practice, daily associations, which empower you to stay calm, stay focused, stay centered, because you will need it. Stay resilient. Make yourself a sankalpa, an intention that for the next X years, X months, X weeks, you will plug into positivity, to contentedness, to creativity, and you will stay centered and stay calm because storms come and storms go. And if you do not have a proper roof or umbrella or clothing, then you will be vulnerable. So do your best to weather the storm and do your best to do your dharma, discharge your duty in the interim. We see this wisdom throughout Indic traditions. But, when we think of the Bhagavad Gita, right, which is laden with full of profound philosophy, there are a couple of verses which to my mind hold the essence of the Gita. A couple of verses we see in chapter 2, 47, 48-ish. We see this reflected in much of the Gita, and I'll comment on it specifically in a moment. But I want to bring our attention to the fact, the notion, the idea, the profundity of this philosophy being advanced, being exposited, what, in a university a lecture hall when people are warm and fed and able to philosophize? No, in the middle of a battlefield, on the cusp of cataclysmic annihilation. Tumultuous times indeed. The brilliance of the Bhagavad Gita is not just its exquisite philosophy, but the extent to which it advocates that philosophy is practical, is engineered to facilitate you navigating this world, not in times of comfort alone, but in times of extraordinary tumult. That's when these teachings become far more apropos, applicable, pertinent. So Krishna tells Arjuna at verse 47, 48 of chapter 2, Yogastha kurkarmani sangam tyakva dhananjaya siddha siddhyo samabhutva samatvam yoga uchate. What on earth does that mean? Well, the feelers and musicians among you don't care. That was kind of cool. It's a musical language. Yeah. But what does that mean? Yogastha, situated in yoga, in camera 2, witness consciousness, however you want to think of this, in peace, in poise, in your soul, situated in your soul, Guru Karmani. Perform your actions, do what you need to do. Your dharma is not to worry, so don't worry. Do your dharma situated in soulfulness. Having abandoned your attachments, don't worry. Abandon your worries, abandon your cares, perform your duties situated in your soulfulness and your soul power. View success and failure the same. Success and failure are children of the temporal, and the temporal is illusory. It's all illusory. Up and down is illusory. Yeah, I'll show you this is corroborated in a number of cultures. I'll show you in a moment. View success and failure the same, because yoga, the state, this consciousness, is the same as equanimity, samatvam, equanimity. So how do we respond to times of tumult? The same manner in which we respond to all times, with equanimity. We do our duty, yes. But the rise and fall of Prakriti, the rise and fall of the day, of the week, of the year, of the reign, of the regime, of the age, of the empire, it's all the same to one who is in the world, not of the world. Now, I run a private study group on the Bhagavad Gita. I think it is coming close to our third year. We're ending our third year having looked at this text verse by verse, one to two verses each Wednesday. It's called Wisdom Wednesday. Perhaps not a misnomer, hopefully. We started with the beginning of chapter 2, and we're now in the middle of chapter 6. And it just so happens that the verse queued up for today happens to be a Wednesday when I'm recording this, similarly says that a person who is equal-minded, we're up chapter 6, and we're on verse 9 of chapter 6, and it's along the lines of, one who is equally minded. There's that equanimity idea again, towards friend, companion, enemy, who is neutral between enemies and your kinsmen alike. one who's impartial among the evil and the righteous. And being impartial in how you view them doesn't mean you don't do the right thing. Protect yourself, right? But one who has an impartiality, that is one who is distinguished, i.e., that is one um, who is evolved or evolving towards soul consciousness, cosmic consciousness, self awareness. However you want to construe this, shunyata for the Buddhists. However you want to construe this, that which the seekers seek. If there's nothing to be sought, then people wouldn't be seeking it. And if it was in the world, they would have found it long ago. Spiritual seekers are seeking truths and experiences that are beyond the mundane. They're not deluded. Some of them are, but they're not really seekers. They're just deluded people who are using spirituality for escapism or clicks or likes or what have you. But the great many millions of seekers who have been seeking truth in all the cultures of the world, they're not deluded. There is something to seek without question. And there's something not only to seek, but something to find. And one who has found that in part or in a whole, such a one experiences and exudes a peace, a calmness that is palpable to those in the presence of such a one. Because such a one sees tumultuous times or wonderful times as just the ebb and flow of the sine wave of Prakriti, material creation. This is wisdom. This is wisdom that's lusciously and gloriously articulated in ancient India, but it's not wisdom insofar as it is Indic. It's not that Indic wisdom is wonderful because it's Indic. No, it's wonderful because it's wise. And you'll see reverberations in other cultures. So, for example, there's a beautiful Taoist Chinese parable where there is this farmer, uh, perhaps closer to what might be middle aged in that times. And these days, middle aged, who knows what middle aged is? Because certainly people are not slowing down in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. But this ancient Chinese farmer was middle aged, and he had a son, a sort of grownish son, and an old wise dad. And his old wise dad knew of the yin and the yang, the up and the down, which creates the Tao. And he understood that these are just two sides of the same cosmic coin, and it is what it is. So this farmer, he had a horse, and the horse ran away. It's terrible, right? See, this is the reactivity. Oh my God, that's horrible. That's so horrible. Really? Is that all you see? Remember, we think things are happening to us. Sometimes they're happening for us. We fail to see that. And everyone's like, that's horrible. What bad luck. And the wise Taoist father said, one wonders if good luck will come of this. And the horse returned some weeks later, with various other horses, whom it obviously met in whatever adjoining lands through which it was galloping. And all of the villagers were sort of like, "Oh, that's great, that's great." No, this is like who we are, right? Wow, liking in this liking, liking in this liking. That's great, that's great, that's awful, that's awful. Pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain. Which should I pick? How about neither? What do you mean neither? Pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain. What do you mean neither? How about peace? How about this space between pleasure and pain? How about you choose peace? You can access it through camera too, which is, yeah, maybe a modern rendition of this beautiful parable of the Upanishads, where there are two birds in the tree of life. One bird is eating the fruit, sweet and sour, rejoicing, sweet fruit, recoiling, sour fruit, rejoicing at sweet fruit, recoiling at sour fruit. And the other one's thinking, oh, what a lovely little bird brain. I'm just watching, unperturbed. So there's the manas, or the mind, or the lower self, and there's the higher self, who's the witness consciousness. And this dear old Taoist dad has access to that higher wisdom. So the horse returns with many horses, and all the villagers are like, "Oh, this is good luck, good luck, good luck." And the father says, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if this was a bad luck as well. How could that be?" You know. Well, the farmer's son took quite a liking to horses and to riding, and he rode, whenever he could. And one day, on a ride with one of these wilder horses, he falls and he breaks his leg. Oh, Terrible, how terrible, how terrible. What bad luck. And the dear old Taoist dad says, well, who knows? Who knows what luck this is? Perhaps there's good in this as well. And then, some warring occurred between their home province and neighboring provinces. And all of the able-bodied young men were taken off to war. But of course, the farmer's son was not, because he had a broken leg. What great luck! What great luck! Said the villagers, the ones who were left, presumably. And the dear old Taoist said, oh, we'll see. So again, we have the polarity of the up and the down, the yin and the yang, success and failure, as the Bhagavad Gita calls it. And then we have this place of peace, this place of witnessing, this place of according with the Tao of all things. It is what it is. Why try and make it what it isn't? It is what it is. There's a brilliant poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. It's a 1943 poem where it's sort of a beautiful message of counsel to his dear beloved son, counsel of the wisdom that will make him a man. And there's so many luscious vignettes. It starts off, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, and here we are, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, and if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, why are they impostors? They're pretending to be real. They're transient experiences coming and going. All things that are good, don't be too pleased, they will end. All things that are bad, don't be too concerned, they will end. All will end in time. They're imposters because they present the appearance of being real, but they're transient, they're temporal. Times of tumult are to be met with a centered detachment from the times, not aloofness, not disengagement, detachment. Detachment born of the wisdom to see triumph and disaster. Those two imposters just the same. So if, and there are a great many nuggets and pearls that Kipling is offering, if all of these things come to pass, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. My son, my son, you'll be a man. Well, perhaps there are two maturations. Perhaps there is a social maturation into adulthood. Perhaps there is an adulting. And perhaps, a la Kipling, there is a spiritual adulting. As you are reborn, as you're twice born, so to speak. And there is your maturation as a spiritual person. There might be two 60-year-olds, both adults-ish, one who's very much juvenile in their approach to all things, and one who has the wisdom to see triumph and disaster as imposters both. Yeah. Siddha Siddhyoho, regarding success and failure as the same, says the Bhagavad Gita. Right. Let's just take another snippet, a couple more snippets from Western culture to see that wisdom is wisdom. And those who have lived through difficult times or lived period or pay attention to life understand how to navigate such troubled waters. And, flapping about and flailing is not how you navigate troubled waters, my dear. In the words of Max Ehrmann, 1927, Desiderata. It's a very beautiful, powerful, spiritual wisdom poem. But I'll just highlight the opening and the beginning. He begins, go placidly, placidly like peacefully, yeah? Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. In coming days, even weeks, yeah, punch all the pillows you need to, perhaps not persons. Yes, have a drink or two or three or four or five, whether chai or, something a little stronger. Perhaps not while you're working, right? Do what you need to do to process your emotionality if there is emotionality. And once you've processed your emotionality, don't engage in activities which will feed and stoke that emotionality. Don't relive the trauma for 4 years or 4 decades or 4 lifetimes. Okay. Process your negative emotion as you may well need to as a human being. And then make a commitment to have the most peaceful, centered, productive 4 years imaginable. And I guarantee you it will be so. Because people will need the stability and the calmness and the light more than ever before. Situate yourself there. In the words of Max Ehrmann, go placidly amid the noise and haste and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Okay. The last paragraph of this beautiful poem is quite profound. I mean, there's much profundity throughout it. Whether it or not it is clear to you, and typically it's not unless you're self-realized sage, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. We use this word universe. We don't mean, the expanse of the cosmos. We mean the human verse more so, life, our life on this planet is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, or her. That's my gloss. Or whatever you conceive him, her, or they to be at peace with the divine. And whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. Whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. Peace, not polarity. Polarity takes you away from peace. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. So, wisdom comes in all shapes and sizes. And it's not such anyone who is wedded to a particular culture categorically and dogmatically. This is the death of wisdom. This is tribalism. Ancient India has produced some profound wisdom teachings, but they're profound not because they're ancient Indian. They're profound because they're human. And great humans across the globe echo each other in what a life well lived looks like, because we're all human beings. We're all Homo sapiens with a soul. And we need to understand how to navigate our very real material ape consciousness with hopes and dreams and aspirations and potential and that divine spark that exists within all of us. And the wise understand how to walk through this world, but not be of this world. And in order to be among them, you need to pan to camera to the witness consciousness. Let the tumult of the times be as it needs to be. What will come, you will handle. You will handle it much more effectively coming from a place of poise and peace. Perhaps you should pray for the serenity to accept what cannot be changed and the courage to change what can be changed. But most importantly, pray for wisdom. Pray for the wisdom to know the difference. Else you will spend so much blood, sweat, and tears giving your energy to the demons and trying to change what you cannot change. And in doing so, you will remain aloof, not affecting change where you can. Focus on your dharma, your duty, your responsibility, your calling, and do that very, very well. And leave the rest up to the divine and to others. For this too shall pass. This is my counsel for tumultuous times. Be well, keep listening. By all means, feel free to study with me at the Indian Wisdom School. For those of you who are really struggling and feel this might be the right fit for you, then perhaps we can have a discovery call for one-on-one counsel. Have a look at rajbalkaran.com. Breathe deeply. Breathe deeply. This too shall pass. Namaste.